Hey everyone. So in this video I want to talk a little bit about something called magical thinking and what the difference is between magical thinking and what we could say magical creating. It's also the difference between somebody who is spiritual, high frequency, sensitive, beautiful soul, and someone who is spiritually embodied and anchored in their truth and grounded and powerful, you could say, in this life, in this realm. Because I've seen it a lot and I have done it a lot. It's something that I've journeyed with a lot and come through now, where there's like a way of being that is very popular and very prevalent in spiritual circles, where there's so much emphasis on being this beautiful spiritual person, which there are so many of, and it's like people have this perception that that's all that is needed, that that's enough, that that spirituality and the course of evolution that we're all on is simply about coming into our hearts, is simply about raising our energy up through the chakras, up to the higher chakras, into the crown, realizing that we are all source and existing in this really beautiful, innocent way. And it is so beautiful. And, we're all these like magical beings. It's the magic child. It's the divine child. It's this ethereal way of being which is so popular in spiritual circles because we are those beings. We are those ethereal, elemental, high-frequency beings. And we've woken up into that truth. But that whole reality of being exists in that other dimension. It exists in our invisible, subtle self, our subtle realm. That way of being cannot penetrate and pierce and be successful and make a real impact and fully bring all of that magic through into this world in a really positive, impactful, major way if we're kind of operating still in that very fine vibrational way. So what I mean by that, to give some examples, is that magical thinking, is when we kind of think that we can just flow along with everything and everything will just be okay. And of course, relatively speaking, that is true, but bear with me. So, so somebody comes into our life, because it's always, it's relationships that are a major story in this. Relationships and also our life purpose work. So these are the two arenas. So let's say, somebody comes into your life, and it could be to work with them, or it could be romantically speaking, that there's some possibility, and you trust that they've come into your life at the right time, in the right way, that they're meant to be there, and you see the potential in them, you see the light in them, and there may be at this point like a couple of flags coming up, but you ignore that because you trust it and you feel, no, this is just going to work out right. And it may be that you did have some level of intention setting, that you may have thought, okay, after this negative experience in this kind of relationship that I had before, I don't want to create that relationship anymore. I want to create this type of relationship. I want this type of person to come into my life. Or you think, okay, I'm not gonna settle for that anymore in terms of my purpose, in terms of my work, or in terms of how I'm living, in the type of house I'm in, or whatever. I'm not gonna settle for that anymore. I want this. And so you say, okay, universe, bring that to me. Or you've learned a lesson, and it's like, okay, I've learned that now. I've finally learned that. So now, everything that comes into my life now is going to be at a higher level. And you trust that, and you magically just believe that that's going to be the case. But then so this person comes in, you invite this person into your life, you trust it, you flow with it, or this new situation, and then it's not that. It's not what you hoped it would be. It's not what you wanted it to be. It's not exactly what you were calling in. It might be an upgraded version, or it might be the same. It might be the same, or it might be an upgraded version. It might be better. It might be that, these things that you were definitely clear that you did not want that anymore is not present in this new situation. But it's still not what your heart is speaking of. It's still not what your heart is asking for. It's still not what you can feel as being true, that sense, that vision that just lights you up, and that's it. It's your birthright, it's your purpose, it's your potential. But then you're in this situation, and again you use your magical thinking, where you think, oh, no, it's not working out now. I'm having to compromise a lot, and maybe this person is showing some narcissistic qualities, or maybe the situation is creating this familiar feeling of not feeling totally safe, not feeling like I'm being fully honored, or feeling like I'm having to compromise too much. But when you have that way of being, where you magically think, and you're in this kind of ethereality place, and this sensitive place, and this spiritual place of just wanting everything to work out okay, and you haven't really come into your full power and presence and penetration of this world yet. So you're not discerning that clearly, you're not penetrating into the truth. And so you get tested, and then it's also like, you can also look at it as like the princess versus the queen, or the prince or the knight versus the king. Because in that place, in that younger, innocent, magical place, it's then very easy to then get into a kind of victim place, get into a kind of a hurt, upset, push, pull place of like, why is this happening? And just wanting it to work out okay, and hoping that you can try and convince that other person, or you can try and make it work, that you can sort of show the other person how you see things, that they might come around, or that if you change yourself enough, if you adapt and you're flexible enough, that things will work out, and you end up spending so much of your energy and your time just thinking about it, and trying to understand it, and work out what happened there, and how you can make it right again. And it takes so much of your life force energy. So let's just end that story for a moment and cut to the other way of being, the other potential, which we can call magical creating, and we can also look at in terms of someone being spiritually embodied. So all of that high vibrational ethereality is still there, but it's being channeled through a strong, human, grounded, empowered presence. So in this place, what can happen is that, let's say you've magically thought something, and then you're in a situation now. This person, as your queen self, as your king self, as your embodied, penetrating into this world, anchored, boundaried, clued up self, we can say, although that sounds a bit patronizing, but it's kind of an endemic. So sometimes I say things in a way that can be quite provocative, but that being within you, that part of you, protects that magical child. Loves that part of your being and protects that and holds that within you. And instead, when things start to seem like, okay, this isn't in alignment with my truth, this isn't really what I want to call in, that part of you can, without any drama, without spinning into feeling like a victim or sort of calling to the heavens, why has this happened again? Or looking at yourself and feeling down and saying, oh, I've manifested this again. Or when is this going to stop? Or trying to change the other person, or trying to plead, beg, like whatever that you can to try and change the situation. That part of you just sees it truthfully and can say, okay, this isn't working for me. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. Like there's no blame of that other person, because actually to get into a story in your head where you think that that person is wrong, that they're doing something bad, that they're mistreating you, or you start to see negative traits in them, like that is going in a direction that is not really in your truth. Because most of the time in these situations, the person isn't a wrong person, they're not a bad person. There are a few circumstances when someone is, they are just a very toxic person, but most of the time they might have slightly narcissistic traits, but they might also have a lot of good qualities which you saw in them to begin with. And it may just be that they're just different, and their needs are different, and they're in a different place, and they cannot meet you. And that's all it is, they can't meet you. So to get angry with them and to get into this power struggle, you're no longer in your power, and you're actually being unkind to them. It's actually quite abusive within yourself to be constantly reacting against someone all the time, judging them, labeling them as being not as evolved as you, or not being able to do this or not being able to do that, making someone feel bad because they can't meet you, is actually kind of abusive. So instead of getting into that, it's your responsibility to just admit within yourself and have that much love and self-worth within yourself, which is really what it's all about. That you can just see it clearly and just say, this isn't working. It's not right for me. It's not working for me. So, these are my needs. This is when this happens, this is how I feel, and this is what I need. And if something can't change there, if there can't be a solution that you can find between yourselves, then I need to move on. I need to move on for now, or for good, or something has to change. But that can happen without any drama at all, without you going into any kind of victim place. And so again, that comes from you being in enough power within yourself that something magical could start to come into your reality, like some person or opportunity, and you can see the potential of it, and you can flow towards it and start feeling it out. And then when it doesn't look like it is what your true heart's kind of resonance is, you can end it. You can just walk away. You don't have that fear of losing. You don't have that kind of belief in lack, or that doubt within yourself, or that low self-worth that something is better than nothing. Okay, this isn't perfect for me, but I'll take it because I want to connect so badly, and I want something to happen, some new opportunity, or to start working towards my dreams so badly that I'll take it. Okay, it's not great, but okay, thank you, I'll take it, even if it makes me feel bad. When you're in your rightful power, you can just walk away, because you know that is going to just lead to an energy drain. You can discern, you're not afraid of seeing the truth, and you believe in your own power and your own purpose, that by saying no, you're not going to be losing opportunities, you're going to be welcoming in better ones. So someone who is a magical creator has a very clear boundary, has a very clear standard and inner knowing of what they wish to create in this reality, what they wish to make happen, what they wish to experience, and won't allow anything less than that. And and there is a fear in us where we can think, but is that being overly perfectionist? Is that just kind of a kind of self-protective mechanism because we're afraid of getting hurt and blah 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 blah? And that can be the case. Those things can be present in somebody, but that's a different thing to what we're talking about here. That's coming from an imbalanced, fearful place, and you would know the difference because you would feel the energy of it. So when you're coming from your king or your queen, where you are able to create something and then destroy it, you are able to acknowledge that something isn't right for you without working with you. It's not working for you without getting into a victim thing, without projecting onto the other person that they're a perpetrator, without getting into any drama about it, without going into that hurt place and spinning off into all these kind of draining energetic scenarios. It's just, okay, thank you for that possibility. That was a sign that I'm on the right track, and I'm going to say no to that. Now, of course, there is also the side of things that no experience is a wasted experience because we learn from everything. And so, people can come into our lives and situations can come into our lives, and even though we may know that that's not it, we may still have an intuitive feeling to explore it, to pursue it, because there is something that our spirit wants us to experience there, to learn from, because obviously it's through saying yes to experiences in our lives that we get to learn, and we get to work out what is you, what isn't you, what does resonate, what does resonate, what doesn't resonate. But it gets to a point where you have to choose that, okay, you've learned now, you know who you are, you know what you want, you know what your calling is, or at least you have some sense of what your calling is, and you now want to create that reality. But you will only call that reality in if you will stop saying yes to other realities. There's a lot that I want to say on this subject, but this is a pretty long recording right now, so I will end it there. So thank you so much.